In this video, I am going to talk about pronunciation and how I think that you can improve your pronunciation. So, watch and listen. First of all, I want to talk about the learning process itself. From my own experience and from what I have heard from other people who have learned languages, the best way, the quickest way, the most efficient way to learn languages is to listen to them, to listen to the real language. Find something that you like, that you can follow. You don't need to know every single word, but if you can follow it and you're interested, then it is perfect. But after listening for a long time, when you do start to speak, are there some sounds perhaps that are not in your own language that you struggle with? In my case, as an English speaker who has been learning Spanish, the one sound which I find quite difficult, and many English speakers find difficult because it is not in English, is the rolled R sound, the sound. That sound, yes. That is because this sound is not in English. Well, it is in some dialects. There are actually some Scottish people that do this sound, but in the vast majority of English dialects, this sound does not exist, and vice versa. Having listened to many Spanish speakers speaking English, I have noticed they often struggle with the SH sound, like in the word shoe. That is because this sound is not in Spanish. So, how do I think that you can get better at making these new sounds? Well, first of all, and most importantly, I think you need to just keep listening to the language. Keep immersing yourself in the language. But after this, having listened for a long period of time, when you are at the point of speaking quite fluently, if there are sounds that are still quite difficult, then I think there is a way that you can improve that. And this is something which I have taken from sports, having watched professionals practice playing their specific sports. The sport I'm going to mention is the sport of golf. You might have seen it before. Now, when professionals, or very good golfers, are practicing, they consciously make specific movements. So they consciously move their body in a specific way. Now this is a conscious movement. They are trying to do a certain thing. But when they actually get to the sport, when they get to playing, it is almost all subconscious. In other words, a golfer only thinks about where the ball is going. Likewise, when a footballer is kicking the ball, they are only thinking about where the ball is going to go. They are not thinking about their technique. But how does this apply to language learning and pronunciation? Well, I think that in certain cases, in a small number of cases, it might be necessary to do some of this conscious practicing. So in my case, this rolled R sound, I think it might be necessary for me to practice making this sound consciously. Not when I am speaking the language, just when I am doing something else. I think it is important to consciously practice making this sound so that I can learn how to move my mouth and my tongue in the right way so that this sound is produced. But having listened to some linguists talk about the subject of language learning and accents in particular, and from having watched some of the world's best sportsmen and women, the key seems to be that to perform really well, so if that is speaking a language or playing golf or football, is to have a low level of anxiety. And thinking consciously about your pronunciation will not lead to a low level of anxiety. That is often why people say that they speak their best Spanish or English or whichever language is not their first after they have had a couple of alcoholic drinks, because alcohol lowers your level of anxiety and promotes positive emotions. So applying this to myself, what is my plan? My plan is to consciously practice making this sound, getting my mouth and my tongue in the right position. Not when other people are around, but just when I am by myself so I can fully relax. But how long will this take? Again, going back to sports, I have often heard that it takes about 10,000, so that is 10,000 repetitions to ingrain a certain movement. That is why professional golfers spend so much time hitting golf balls on the range, or Cristiano Ronaldo spends so much time taking free kicks to ingrain that specific change, which is going to improve their level of performance. 10,000 seems like a lot though. I think that it's probably less in this case because a mouth movement is much less complicated than something to do with sports, because there are millions of people which speak these languages and make these sounds, but there are only a few people that can play sports to this top level. So probably 10,000 is a bit of an overestimate, but I still imagined it is quite a lot. So if you are to practice doing these sounds consciously, what will happen? Again, going back to what sports are like, I think that what might happen is that as you first practice making that move consciously, so moving your tongue, you won't be able to do it. After practicing for a certain period of time, I think you will start doing it the odd time, and then quite a lot of the time, then most of the time, and then you will eventually get to the point when you can do it all of the time when you are practicing. But a spanner in the works. Going back to sports, it is quite often that when the pressure comes on, people revert back to what they were doing before, to what they know or think that they can rely on. So they will often regress and go back to the pronunciation that they were using beforehand. This is one of the reasons why people speaking in foreign languages often aren't able to speak as well, or their accent gets worse when they are around other native speakers who they don't really know very well, who they often think are judging them. But I think if you keep practicing this sound consciously, then eventually it will start to ingrain itself when you are speaking the language, as I said, unconsciously, when you're not thinking about the words, when you're only communicating, when you're focused on the message. So you will first not be able to make the sound even though you can make it consciously. Then with more time, you will make the sound at the odd time. Sometimes you will pronounce it well, sometimes not. Then as you keep practicing, you will make it more and more and more, and your errors will get less and less or occur less often, until eventually you get to the stage when you don't even need to think about it. You can just make that sound on demand. Maybe I am right, maybe I am not, but to me, it seems to make quite a lot of sense. What I would say is that in the vast majority of cases, you should not practice doing this. This is only with specific sounds which you really struggle with. The vast majority of these sounds, I think your brain will work out subconsciously for you, so you won't need to think about it. Your brain will do the work for you. If you get out of the way of it and let it do its thing, just like you did when you were young. You weren't thinking about the language and your brain learned it just fine. But anyway, what do you think? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you not really know? Or do you completely disagree? Do you think that I am speaking nonsense? Let me know in the comments below. I hope that this has been interesting. I hope that you have learned something, and I want to thank you for watching and listening to this video, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks again and goodbye.